On this occasion of Mothering Sunday, a Sunday where we adorn the altar with the color of rose, where we welcome back all those who were brought up in this place, who were reared here, supported, confirmed, baptized, married, where we welcome back those who come here today for spiritual and emotional renewal, even if it's for the first time. It is important to consider what that welcoming really looks like, what it means, and how we employ it. Asking, what does it mean to welcome as the Father has welcomed? And in the parable today, I can think of no better parable for today, the parable of the prodigal son, the most popular of Christ's parables. We are to consider this welcome in the drama and in the context of the situation. This parable is one that's been modeled to represent what true reconciliation is to mean. Reconciliation with God and family, community, and home. Yet the context and resolve is not as black and white as one might assume, because it's an example that is weighed not only in the sphere of abundance and famine, right and wrong, love and hate. It's also a passage that is to be measured with all of the social impetus, the psychological interplay, the institutional issues at hand. It's one that continues to weigh upon the hearts of the hearers and later the potential doers of this way of being, because these issues influence our ability to live into the pattern of Christ's way. And importantly, this complicates things. It complicates the responsibility of things. It makes us question who has it, who needs it, and how we can give it. For us, it's a question not as to just what is supposed to be fair. These are the conversations had amongst children. This isn't fair. This isn't right. You said this. But this is not the conversation that we're to have. Instead, it's a conversation as to what the situation is and what is needed today. What is needed today that might be greater than what we once expected. And to live into this way and to support a life of this effort is to attempt to understand the exercise of faith in action that is not measured by fairness, but instead by necessity. And certainly this complicates things. It challenges things. It challenges our living. And right with our living that is right with our neighbor. So what is right? What is fair? What does faith and practice look like when it touches our own lives? This theme of changing fortunes through the use of this term prodigal is significant to this story. Prodigal carries with it two meanings. It can mean either extreme generosity or extreme wastefulness. Notice again, not a measure of fairness here. As a result, the use of prodigal is not only a definition of the youngest son, the prodigal son, but it's also the development of the father. What could be viewed by some as extreme generosity, the older son views it as extreme wastefulness. The gospel challenges all of us to consider what it would be like to be each of these characters and to weigh and measure the challenge in each. Oh, to be like the Father. Gracious, loving, forgiving. To have access to that kind of abundance. A sense of capable foolishness. I like that phrase. How about the prodigal son? I can identify with the prodigal son a little bit. To live briefly and unpreparedly and lavishly. And to then remember what it feels like to be without. And the necessity of others. Or perhaps the oldest son. Because we've all experienced what it sometimes feels like to be in an unfair situation. That you've done the work, you put in the time, but you were never recognized as you should have been. every time I read this parable, it plucks the strings of my heart. How foolish I have been. How in need of support I have been. How in need of others I have been over and over. And how much I have enjoyed participating in the narrative of abundance. Shared abundance. What joy that brings. You see, we've all been characters in this parable. We have been one to experience the challenge of returning home for reconciliation and what that entails. And the challenge of this is the human condition that's wrapped around it. It's a notion to say that we've read this and we understand this and we understand who we should be in this story, but it's also a recognition of our humanness to realize that although we've learned a lesson from it, we still are bound to fall back into these characters once again in our lives. And I think where we're left on this particular Sunday in Lent is a place of question. Asking ourselves how we can live by this model of faith and practice where we're not overcome by the scarcity of this world, but instead reminded of its abundance. An abundant God that calls each of us into that kind of living each and every day, no matter what position we hold. An abundance where we are constantly being asked, how can we be and do and give more? And it's through the experience of the older son that we come to realize the pitfalls in the measurement of other people. The continued challenge in working to do what is right, what is true. And the realization that if we should falter, if we should fall, that we have a God that will be waiting for us with ring and sandal and robe, calling us back to the feast. Amen.